The WNBA has just experienced one of the most explosive 48-hour stretches in the history of women's professional basketball, and that's not hype, that's reality. We're seeing Supermax deals being finalized, franchise legends returning home, million-dollar backcourts forming in real time, and major stars being moved across the league, completely reshaping the competitive landscape overnight. And right in the middle of all that chaos, the Indiana Fever made a statement that cannot be ignored by locking in Kelsey Mitchell on a massive $1.4 million deal, making her the first player in franchise history to cross the $1 million mark. That alone would normally dominate headlines, but in this wild free agency cycle, it's not even the biggest story, which tells you just how insane things have become. The Fever now have what might be the most dangerous backcourt in the entire sport, and the ripple effects are going to be felt across the league. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Court Central. Today we're breaking everything down, the biggest signings, the blockbuster moves, the deals that will define this season, and most importantly, we're separating the winners from the teams that may have just made massive franchise-altering mistakes. Let's get into it.
The free agency negotiation period has come and gone, and now we're in full throttle, finally. Kelsey Mitchell will be returning to the Fever as she has been offered the Supermax. Azurá Stevens will not be returning to the Los Angeles.
Let's start with the move that matters most here, because the Indiana Fever just made a statement that echoes across the entire league. Kelsey Mitchell has officially signed a one-year Supermax contract worth $1.4 million, a historic deal that makes her the first player in franchise history to cross the $1 million mark. And when you really look at it, the leap is staggering. She went from earning around $250,000 last season to $1.4 million now, a massive jump that reflects not just market growth, but pure performance, because Mitchell absolutely earned every dollar of it. Last season, she averaged 20.2 points per game, led the league with 111 made three-pointers, secured first-team All-WNBA honors for the first time in her career, finished 5th in MVP voting, and did all of that while playing every single game on a roster that was constantly battling injuries. And when the pressure hit its peak in the playoffs, she elevated even further, averaging 22.3 points per game and dropping 34 points in Game 1 of the semifinals against the defending powerhouse Las Vegas Aces, proving she's not just consistent, she's clutch. And the most important part of all of this is how intentional the move was, because just weeks ago, Caitlin Clark went on national television and made it crystal clear that bringing Mitchell back was the top priority, calling her the running mate who makes everything easier in the backcourt, and the front office responded exactly how you'd expect a serious contender to respond. They got the deal done, locking in what is now arguably the most dangerous backcourt in women's basketball. But here's the detail that's flying under the radar and could define the future of this franchise. This is the final year the Fever can use the core designation on Mitchell, because starting in 2027, players with 7 or more years of service are no longer eligible to be cored, which means once this season ends, Mitchell becomes a true unrestricted free agent with complete control over her future, putting Indiana on the clock with one clear mission: prove in the next year that this is where she belongs long-term by competing for, and potentially winning, a championship, because anything less opens the door for other teams to make their pitch. And if that wasn't enough, Clark added fuel to the fire with another statement that should have every opponent paying attention, openly saying the team expected to win it all last season and now believes they'll be the favorites this year, which isn't optimism, it's a warning, a declaration that the Fever are done rebuilding and ready to take over. And with Mitchell officially locked in, that vision just became very real. Now here's where things get even more interesting, because while Indiana has secured its core and strengthened its position, the rest of the league is making moves that could either challenge them or completely collapse under pressure, and some of those decisions are already looking questionable. But before we break all that down, let me hit you with the second biggest bombshell of the day.
JJ is going back, and it is no surprise to me at all that Kelsey is going back. Caitlin Clark said she was the #1 priority on a broadcast. There is no other better big three, better backcourt than Kelsey, Caitlin, and the big three being Kelsey, Caitlin, and AB. The only thing I'm a little...
Nneka is officially going home, and this move is sending shockwaves across the entire league. The 10-time All-Star, 2016 MVP, and current WNBA president, who played a major role in negotiating the very CBA that is now fueling these massive contracts, is returning to the Los Angeles Sparks after spending 2 seasons with the Seattle Storm. This is not just a feel-good reunion story, it is a serious power move. At 35 years old, Ogwumike is still still performing at an elite level, putting up 18.3 points, 7 rebounds, and 2.3 assists per game last season, while shooting an incredibly efficient 51.9% from the field and 36.7% from 3. Those are not veteran decline numbers. Those are all-star numbers on any roster in the league. Now she joins a Sparks team that is quietly building something dangerous, already featuring Kelsey Plum, Cameron Brink, and Dearica Hamby. When you visualize that lineup, Plum orchestrating the offense, Brink anchoring the paint, Hamby bringing versatility, and Ogwumike adding leadership, scoring, and experience, you are looking at a team that is no longer rebuilding, but ready to compete. The Sparks have missed the playoffs since 2020, but that drought is now in serious danger of ending. Ogwumike's return also carried emotional weight and class. She shared a cinematic social media post with the Hollywood sign transforming into her name, captioned, "It was always see you later, now I'll see you soon," signaling that this reunion was always part of the plan. In conversations with her sister Chiny, she expressed genuine excitement about coming back home. At the same time, her departure from Seattle was handled with complete professionalism, posting a heartfelt thank you message with green and yellow hearts, acknowledging her time with the Storm without any controversy or negativity. That is leadership, and it is exactly why she holds the position she does within the Players Union. But here is where things get even more interesting. The Sparks might not be done yet. Reports are already circulating that Los Angeles is exploring a potential trade with the Chicago Sky involving Rickna Williams and Ariel Atkins. If that deal materializes, it would further reshape this roster into something far more complete and competitive. Suddenly, the Sparks go from being an afterthought to a legitimate playoff threat in just one offseason. The Western Conference, which was already competitive, it's just got a lot more unpredictable. And with moves like this happening across the league, it is clear that the dominoes are only just starting to fall.
The Chicago Sky, because after the Angel Reese trade, the Chicago Sky fans were just in utter disarray. It was depressing. There was nothing going on, and everyone was thinking that Jeff Pagliuca was the dumbest GM in the history of GMs. And I did mention, I did not think that this was the end of it because they did save a lot of their players.
Now let's bring the focus back to the Indiana Fever, because on Court Central, they are always the main storyline. As things stand right now, this roster is already shaping up to be something special. Caitlin Clark is locked in, Aaliyah Boston is locked in, and Myisha Hines-Allen remains under contract. On top of that, Kelsey Mitchell has officially signed her $1.4 million Supermax deal, making history for the franchise. Lexi Hull is a restricted free agent but widely expected to return, while Sophie Cunningham, an unrestricted free agent, has mutual interest from both sides to get a deal done. With signings opening tomorrow, that gives Indiana 6 key players either secured or very likely to be back. 6 players who just made a semifinal run, 6 players who already have elite chemistry. Oh, and 6 players who know exactly what it feels like to be just minutes away from the finals and have that moment slip through their fingers. That kind of shared experience is not something you can buy, it has to be lived. Now, the next phase is critical. The Fever still need to round out the roster with the right complementary pieces. They are looking for a power forward who can protect the rim and stretch the floor with three-point shooting, a reliable backup point guard to support Clark, and solid veteran depth across the board. The good news? They have roughly $3.6 million in cap space to work with, along with the number 10 pick in the draft. That gives the front office real flexibility. The key names to keep an eye on are Alana Smith, Azura Stevens, Oro, and Kennedy Burke, all unrestricted free agents who fit perfectly into Indiana's system. Each of them brings versatility, experience, and skill sets that could elevate this team from a strong semifinal contender to a full-blown championship favorite. If Indiana manages to land someone like Smith, you could make a very real argument that this becomes the best roster in the entire WNBA. But here's the reality: even if they don't land a blockbuster signing, this team is already operating at an elite level. The backcourt of Clark and Mitchell is arguably the most dangerous duo in women's basketball right now. Boston is already a top-tier player in the league. Hull provides elite perimeter defense every single night. Cunningham brings toughness, attitude, and that enforcer mentality every championship team needs. And then there's head coach Stephanie White, who took this group to a Game 5 semifinal battle despite dealing with major injuries across the roster. That alone tells you everything about the foundation this team has built. At the same time, the rest of the league is not standing still. The Las Vegas Aces are reloading. The New York Liberty are holding their ground as a powerhouse. The Atlanta Dream just made a major splash by adding Angel Reese. The Los Angeles Sparks strengthened their roster with Nneka Ogwumike. Every contender is making moves, every front office is trying to keep up, but right in the middle of this league-wide arms race sits Indiana, with arguably the most exciting young core and the most motivated superstar in the game. All signs point towards something bigger than just a competitive season. This has the potential to be the most exciting year in WNBA history. More money, more talent, more attention, and more pressure than ever before. And when everything finally plays out, when the playoffs are over and the confetti falls in October, there is a strong case to be made that one team will be standing above the rest. One team will lift the trophy. One team will prove that culture, chemistry, and the gravitational pull of a player like Caitlin Clark is simply too much to overcome. The Indiana Fever didn't just make moves, they built the foundation for a championship. Now the rest of the league has one job: figure out how to stop what's coming. Good luck with that.